Good evening and welcome to the September 11th meeting of the Glendale City Council. For all of you that are here and in the audience, Mayor Sinanyan is currently in Armenia, but he is here telephonically, so you will be hearing his voice and he will be participating in the meeting. So with that, may we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Agajanian.
Present.
Garapetian.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Mayor Sinanyan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dveen.
Here. Next item, please.
Next item would be flag salute.
Led by myself. So please stand, everyone. And on this very special day, let's give allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Please remain standing for tonight's invocation. Pastor Charles Updike, First Baptist Church of Glendale.
Let us pray. God, we are aware that we are among friends and neighbors and city leaders, together seeking ways to improve our city and serve those who live among us. Continue to guide our mayor and council and others who serve you and our city as they address the many needs before us. May their work prosper and bring fulfillment to them as they devote themselves to good governance. We know that we are blessed to live in a city that is progressive and full of many opportunities for learning, working, playing, and helping. We ask for your protective arms to enfold and uphold us in our city as we move forward. Be with our civil servants, those first responders in time of danger. Especially today, O God, we remember that day, 9/11, and are so mindful of the many sacrifices of those first responders to assist, some giving their very lives. And so, Lord, we thank you for the many sacrifices that are made for our freedoms. And we ask your blessing of comfort upon those who mourn and grieve the loss 17 years ago. We pray for safety and security for our citizens. Especially, Lord, we ask for your spirit of encouragement to surround and support our children, their caretakers and teachers. And may all of our efforts bring joy to their lives. And may our lives radiate your kindness, your compassion, an open mind, a listening ear, and in all things, a generous spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Updike. Next item, please.
The agenda for the September 11, 2018 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council is posted on Thursday, September 6, 2018 on the bulletin board outside City Hall and at 64 Arami Street, Apartment 62, Yerevan, Armenia, 0007.
Mr. Galanian.
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, for September 18, 2018, for the Housing Authority, there are no agendized items. There will be a joint meeting between City Council and the Housing Authority commencing at 3 p.m. And there's one item from the Director of Community Development regarding request for direction on preparation of an inclusionary zoning ordinance and or a development impact fee for the benefit of providing affordable housing. That evening, starting at 6 p.m., there'll be a 6 p.m., excuse me for 1 second. We have several consent items, starting with Public Works regarding award of a contract for transit route analysis, followed by Director of Community Services and Parks regarding fiscal year 2018-19 submission of grant application to the California Department of Housing and Community Development under the California Emergency Solutions and Housing Program, and submission of the grant application to the California Homeless Coordinating and Financing Council under the Homeless Emergency Aid Program. Also, a report from Chief Information Officer regarding enterprise license agreement with Environmental Systems Research Institute for annual software maintenance and technical support for the city's geographic information system, followed by a report from the Director of Human Resources and Chief Information Officer regarding upgrade, configuration, maintenance, and support of the Renaissance system, followed by another report from the Fire Chief and Chief Information Officer regarding purchase of mobile data computers for Glendale Fire Department, and lastly from the Chief of Police regarding City of Glendale's response to 2017-18 report by the Los Angeles County Civil Grand Jury. Under action items, there's a report from the Director of Community Development regarding Space 134 freeway ramps and Space 134 preliminary engineering study, followed by a report from Director of Human Resources regarding Memorandum of Understanding between the City and Glendale Firefighters Association and resolutions addressing the terms and conditions of said MOU and classification and compensation of affected city employees. And lastly, under hearings, from the Director of Community Development, Appeal of Design Review Board's approval of DRB case number PDR 1526902, located at 1732 Art Even Avenue. That concludes my report, Madam Premier.
Thank you. Next item, please.
B would be appointment of board and commission members by Mayor Sinanyan, August 28, 2018. B1, Andy Carrasco, Glendale Water and Power Commission. B2, Dveen, Babaian, Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission.
Mayor Sinanyan?
Yes, Madam Pro Tem, thank you. I am nominating Mr. Carrasco for this position. He's an industry professional and will contribute much to the commission. And I would like to request a second by my colleagues.
Okay, is there a second? Doesn't need a second.
Doesn't need a second?
Does not.
Okay.
Roll call?
Unless there's discussion.
Is there any discussion? None? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Garabetian? Yes. Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Sinanyan?
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Dveen.
Yes. And your next nominee?
My next nominee is Dveen Babaian. He is currently at USC Law School, and much as I was when I became a Parks Commissioner, and I wholeheartedly nominate him for this position.
Okay. Roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Garabetian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Sinanyan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dveen.
Yes. Are either of these individuals in the audience, if you'd like to stand up and maybe say a few words? Either one? Yes. Please, come forward. One of your appointees is here, your nominees is here.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I appreciate the opportunity for them to express themselves.
Sure? Yes?
Just want to say a quick thank you first to Mayor Sinanyan, not just,
Name.
sorry?
Name.
Oh, my name is Dveen Babaian. I'm being appointed to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Just want to say a quick thank you to Mayor Sinanyan, not just for the appointment, but also just for his sound and principled leadership over the years, and obviously to the council for voting me in. I'm looking forward to my work on the Parks and Rec Commission, and I won't let you guys down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
All right.
luck.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Next item?
Next item would be consent items, including the minutes. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed. Minutes of special city council meeting of August 21st, 2018, and the special and regular city council meeting of August 28th, 2018.
Okay. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent item? Do we have any?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Garabetian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Sinanyan?
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Dveen.
Yes. Next item?
Next item would be city council and staff comments.
Are there any comments from my council colleagues? Councilmember Najarian.
First, I'd like to apologize for not being able to attend the August, I believe it was 28th meeting. I was on my anniversary trip with my wife 4 years. But I would like to ask that the council adjourn tonight's meeting in the memory of Franco Noravian. I know many of us on council knew him personally. Several attended his funeral services this past weekend. I think we have a graphic for Mr. Noravian. Franco was known as a kind and gentle and honest soul. He could do no harm to anyone. He was always a very nice guy. Everyone loved Franco wherever he went, in his business and in his personal life. In 1978, at the age of 13, he left Iran and his parents and was sent to Venice to be schooled at the Mkhitaryan Institute before coming to the United States. He arrived in LA in 1979 and lived with his uncle Alfred and Aunt Jenik, his cousins Carlo and Anahid. He graduated El Camino Real High School, went to Santa Monica College, and ultimately received his bachelor's degree in architecture from UC Berkeley in 1988. Several years later, his parents came from Iran and they were reunited. In Los Angeles, Franco worked for a small architectural firm and another until he started his own practice in 1994. He was a successful architect. His clients and business partners enjoyed working with him because he was honest and a creative genius at best. His reputation always preceded him as a hard worker. He met his wife Rita and they were married on July 4th, 1999. They were blessed with 2 beautiful daughters, Christina and Francesca, and these young girls deeply feel the loss of their father. His family was the most important thing in his life, and he cherished the times together. He had so much more in his life to live and to experience and to give to our community. It's very unfortunate that his life was unexpectedly cut short. We know, however, that his legacy will live on forever through his children, wife, and family, and the works of architecture that he produced throughout his 30-plus year career. So I would ask that we adjourn tonight's meeting in Franco's memory.
Mr. Najarian, if I can add something. We benefited, my family and I benefited from Franco Noravian's services, and he was a great professional and an excellent human being. I deeply, deeply regret his death, and I'm sorry that I wasn't there for his funeral.
I think he wants to.
Madam Mayor, I have comments if I can go next. Not sure if anyone else wants to go before me.
Councilmember Agajanian wants to say something about Franco.
Okay, Madam Pro Tem, then I'll go next. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
I knew Franco for a long time. He was real gentleman. I know when he was kid, the uncle and others, his uncle, I mean, and saying that they want to see him to become a doctor, medical doctor. And from childhood, he said that he wants to become an architect. And that's what he was pursuing, and that's what he did, and he was very respected architect and licensed architect. And this was such a sad occasion that I heard that he passed away a few days ago. When he passed away, this is a real loss for Glendale because he was working in Glendale and he was a designer of a few buildings around here, which he had, you know, so passionate. He was so passionate about making a building, a nice building, to design a nice building, and he accomplished that. And I'm very sad that we lost Franco.
Garpetian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended Franco's funeral, and there were like hundreds of people there, and there was no room in the church, and everybody was waiting outside. It was a sad day for our community. Franco was a great guy, and known him for a long time. And one thing that you could always, one thing I can tell about Franco is he always smiled. He had a big smile on his face. When I was on the design review board and he would bring projects, even if the project was turned down, he would accept it with a smile. And my deepest condolences to his family and loved ones, and it's a great loss. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you tell them to turn off their...
Could we please turn the phones off? Thank you. Okay, I just want to add that he was a gifted architect and a very fine man, and his loss will be felt by many. And now, Mayor Sinanyan.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I wanted to first thank you for conducting the meeting in my physical absence. And I want to make a short statement. Apparently at the last meeting, during the discussion of one of the agenda items, I mistakenly and unintentionally made a comment and used in the same comment the name of the Northwest Homeowners Association, and that was utterly unintentional and not what I was trying to say, and for that I apologize. I was referring to next door. So that's it, Madam Mayor, Madam Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem. That's my last statement.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have a few items. Okay. I represent the City of Glendale on the Arroyo Verdugo Communities Joint Powers Authority. Cities of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, Burbank, Pasadena, South Pasadena, and the unincorporated areas of La Crescenta and Montrose also have representatives on that committee. We are currently working on the first 5-year plan for our multi-year regional programs funded by Measure M, which was voted on an approved sales tax. This plan is to determine what projects to fund in the next 5 years. And as part of the process, a public meeting will be held by each city to receive input from the community, from the public, from all of you on future projects. These projects include transportation, connectivity, and complete streets projects. Among some of the projects would be the speed transit grid, Glendale streetcar, B-line replacement buses, etc. So if any of you out there are interested in any of these projects, or you want to give the city your preferences and your ideas, please come to the meeting on September 26th, and it will be the Transportation and Parking Commission meeting. It will be at 6 p.m. Again, that's on September 26th, right here, and it will be the Parking and Transportation Commission meeting. And that brings me to another item. I also serve on the SCAG, and that's the Southern California Association of Governments, in the Energy and Environment Committee. And the focus of our last meeting, which was Thursday, is the electrification of transportation. That means cars, buses, trucks. At the SCAG meeting, they discussed LA City's newest plan is called Zero Emissions Roadways by 2028. And it was impressed upon all of us, elected officials and all the representatives from different cities all over Southern California, that we should be looking and working right now on lowering our greenhouse gas emissions caused by transportation. So we need to look into ways of doing that, to find aggressive electrification portals, infrastructure, technology. And so what I'm requesting, if I can get a second from my colleagues, is a staff report on the status of our city in the realm of electrification. Where are we now? Where are we going? What are we looking at in the future? The legislation that is now on record requires that the state reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 40% below 1990 by 2030. And I think everyone knows that the major cause of greenhouse gas emissions is transportation. And so I'd like to find out, and for our residents to know, and for everyone to know exactly where we are in that realm.
I would second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so we'll look forward to that report, Mr. Zern.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just to follow up on the level of greenhouse gas reduction. I don't think it's 40%, it's about 19%.
40% below 1990.
I understand that, but we already achieved a big portion of it by 2020. From 2020 to 2030, I think it will be another 19%.
Okay, so Mr. Zern, you'll bring us a report. Thank you, Mr. Garpetian. The other item that I wanted to mention was we had a wonderful visit this week and from a Japanese contingency from Osaka, one of our sister cities, and they were here to celebrate the 26th anniversary of the diplomatic relations between Japan and the Republic of Armenia. It was a beautiful event, and it was so nice to see the camaraderie between the Japanese community and the Armenian community. And we found out that Japan is going to be sending a group of workers to renovate the Japanese tea garden at the Brand Library to bring it up to the exact kind of qualifications or status that a authentic Japanese tea house would have. So we're looking forward to that next year. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that we have working on a really wonderful relationship with Japan. And tonight I'm also going to ask that we close, we adjourn our meeting tonight in remembrance of those first responders who saved lives on 9/11 and for all the souls that were lost that day. Today I took part in the Crescenta Valley Remembrance Motorcade this morning. It was wonderful to see the school children out on the sidewalks with flags, and what a wonderful lesson for them to learn patriotism. And you know, those kids weren't even a twinkle in their mother's eye when 9/11 occurred 17 years ago. But it will be a good lesson for them to learn in appreciating our country and the helpfulness and the willingness of our people to help each other. So I would ask that we adjourn for Franco and for the first responders and those that lost their lives in 9/11 tonight. So with that, let's, next item is?
Next will be community event announcements, 3 minutes, and the 3-minute general public comment section.
Okay, and we have first Maggie Kavanian.
Good evening, Mayor Sinanyan, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, council members and staff. I'm Maggie Kavarian with the Community Services and Parks Department. I'm here to invite our local area nonprofits to our first ever CDBG open house on September 13th at 3 p.m. over at Pacific Park Community Center. We are inviting our nonprofits to join us so we can teach them the how-tos and the fundamentals of applying for CDBG funds, learning about CDBG funds, and finding out our eligibility requirements and all that good stuff. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer, but we look forward to having everyone out there at 3 p.m. at Pacific Park this Thursday.
Okay, Councilmember Najarian.
Thank you for that announcement. This is the precursor to actual application for the CDBG funding, which is the annual fund, and the funding categories are both capital improvements and social services. So we have a lot of nonprofits in the community that ask invariably after the CDBG funding has been awarded, what can I do to get my organization some funding? So this is a great seminar, workshop that you're putting on. If any of you members, board members, or directors of a worthy nonprofit are interested, and why shouldn't you be interested, please attend this great seminar September 13th at 3 p.m. at Pacific Park Community Center. So thank you, staff, for going that extra mile to explain the process to our organizations.
Thank you, Maggie.
I just want to add that I want to thank you for this brief but very informative information. I think I want to encourage everyone to participate and at least get the information as to, if maybe not this year, how to apply for it next year. I think this is due to Mr. Agajanian's request as to why not more people are participating. I think this is another step towards getting the community engaged and at least provide the information to them. So if they want to participate in the future and get some funding, they could do so. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Agajanian.
Is this going to be the last community
It is not
call it?
actually.
Open house for community to come and listen or get some opinion or ideas about how they can join and get help for their organization?
Councilmember Agajanian, it is not. This is actually the first one we're going to have. And then the technical support meeting that we do, the workshop that we do annually, will continue to remain in November. So in late November, we'll have a second event, which is the technical support workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Good. I hope you get a good turnout. I know that this is not an easy process. It is a process, so it's important that all the organizations know exactly how to maneuver through that process. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next speaker, Susan Carl. Purple, are you here? There you are. She's here.
Not that purple anymore.
I have visual aids.
Okay.
So these posters are going to go up at Glendale High. Forgive me if my Armenian is not that great, but I'm practicing. Hello, my name is Susan DeCarl. Everybody knows me as Purple. I live at 1841 Tamerlane Drive in Glendale, and I'm here to talk about PTA Reflections. So I wanted to help spread the word about the PTA Reflections Art Contest. This year, I'm the co-chair for the Reflections Committee at Glendale High. This year at Glendale High, I would love to see more submissions. We have 6 categories, and this is all GUSD schools. Visual arts, photography, film production, dance choreography, music composition, and literature. This year's theme is Heroes Around Me, and I think our GUSD students have such amazing stories to share revolving around this theme. And the reason that I'm co-chairing this year is, personally, I think this past year has been an incredible year of education and enlightenment for Armenian American youth, and I urge students to share who their heroes are. It could be as simple as a picture of their family. This is also currently the dawning of a golden age of Asian American cinema. Maybe we have students who have rediscovered what it means to be Asian American with the success of Crazy Rich Asians. With the political turmoil that has turned Glendale into a sanctuary city, which of our students has the courage to share their experience? Could they turn that experience into spoken word poetry, a song, a short film? We are a nation of immigrants, and we have a rich variety of stories waiting to be shared, and my hope is one of our Glendale students wins at the national level and puts a spotlight on their experience and vision, as well as spotlight on the incredible talents we have residing in our jewel city. Due date for submission is September 30th for Glendale High School, which is a Sunday, but everyone turned some stuff a couple days late, so that's fine. So some schools might have different submission dates. It's usually the end of September. Winners of the contest are due to the Glendale PTA Council by October 25th. And for more information, please visit pta.org/reflections. Thank you.
Susan, did you say this is a national contest?
Yeah, so you submit to your school, then they judge and jury. They judge, and then the winners go on to council, which is the Glendale Council, and then it goes to district, which is like Glendale and a couple other cities, and then state, and then I think a couple times Glendale High has had state champions, but I don't think we have national yet, but I'm really hoping this year.
Great. Good opportunity for talent to emerge. Any
Yes.
other comments? Thank you, Sue, for all you do for our kids.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
And I want
You're
to,
welcome.
Madam Pro Tem, I also want to thank Sue
Yes.
for everything that she does for our city and
Oh,
our
wait,
kids.
sorry.
Sorry, Zari, the mayor's speaking to you, Sue.
Isn't it 3 a.m. over there?
It's 5:37 a.m.
Okay.
And I just wanted to thank you for everything that you do. Much appreciated, Sue.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Rock on.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Thank you. Monica Campagna, 3 minutes, please.
Hello, everyone.
You're
Good evening.
the fast reader, right?
Fast reader, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful to be here tonight, as always, to have the opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you so much. I just had a few points today regarding our energy plans for Glendale. You've probably heard the fantastic news that our governor has just signed into law SB 100. And this will require our city to get 60% of its power from eligible renewables by 2030, and sets a planning target of 100% clean energy by 2045. So it's really worth emphasizing also that with California's track record of taking small steps and then actually jumping and upping the ante later, we really need to realize that 100% by 2045 is just a placeholder, and that number will almost definitely be brought forward. So saying that we even have 20 years to get there is being pretty generous. So with this in mind, I just ask all of you who might still be entrenched in the idea of building a new gas plant here to please allow yourself to reconsider now the situation. Because anything we build today in 20 years is going to be a ginormous paperweight. Just looking at this from the financial perspective alone, it's a bad investment for us. The whole thing is based on a 30-year return, and maximum, we're going to see 20, maybe 22. Also, more to that point, I found it distressing to see in the report that you'll see later today from GWP that we are going in the wrong direction right now with our renewables. We slid back from 47% in 2016 to 37% in 2017. That was a real surprise. It's kind of inconceivable knowing that we could get back to 47 if we add gas into the mix now. Unless, of course, the units that we build aren't used or are hardly used. And that's probably what I could see happening, which means that then we've invested in a huge expense that we won't be able to use. So let's not do this, please. An interesting fact in small print, in 2017, we only got 8.4% of our energy from Unit 9 at Grayson, natural gas at Grayson. And so, in other words, we're doing pretty good without using it that much right now. And hopefully we could be discussing how not to add generation there, but how to, at some point, retire that unit altogether so that we can get to our clean energy goal. I'm really proud of you all so much, all of you that voted to open up to the RFP, and so excited to see what these 34 proposals bring. So thank you so much for doing that, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, thank you. Hike Akmanian, sorry, I can't read your last name. Hike.
Hike Mahmuren. Buenas tardes, Baririco. Voy a traducir algunos puntos al armenio y al español durante mi declaración, ya que tenemos personas que hablan armenio y español en la audiencia. Իմ խոսքի ընթացքում ես որոշ բաներ թարգմանելու եմ հայերեն եւ իսպաներեն, որ հայախոս եւ իսպանախոս ներկա գտնվողները նույնպես հասկանան. This morning, LA County Board of Supervisors passed with a 4-1 vote a temporary rent cap as the first step to full rent control in unincorporated LA County. Exactly what we demand, and you failed to pass on August 28th, and exactly what we demanded for years, showing complete indifference towards tens of thousands of residents of this city, of your most vulnerable constituents. Let me be very clear. Your refusal to take action and pass rent control is an act of violence. You are hurting the people who voted you into office. Դուք ցավ եք պատճառում այն մարդկանց, որոնք ձեզ են ընտրել այստեղ նստելու։ In just a few years, we will be looking back in wonder at how outrageous today's exploitation of renters is. Question is, which side of history are you on? It's not too late to wake up. We are all here today to say that nothing on your agenda is as important as adopting rent control now. Cities, municipalities, areas right here in LA County are acting. Ձեր օրակարգում տան վարձերի հսկում անցկացնելուց ավելի կարևոր ոչ մի բան ուղղակի չի կարող լինել. Nada en su agenda es tan importante como adoptar control de renta ahora. I'd like to invite everyone in the audience to join us outside as we organize for rent control in Glendale. Me gustaría invitar a la audiencia a unirse a nosotras afuera para organizar el control de renta en Glendale. Հրավիրում եմ բոլորին գալ դուրս կազմակերպվելու վարձի հսկում Glendale-ում անցկացնելու համար։ Դուխով։ Շնորհակալություն։
We'll give them a few minutes to exit. And as I understand it, the cap in Los Angeles has a 60-day trial period. So we'll watch that, see how it works in LA, and perhaps we can bring that up LA County before and see what if we can look at that in Glendale. Next item, please.
Next item would be action items. 8A, Public Works regarding Pennsylvania Avenue Rehabilitation Project. 8A1, motion awarding and construction contract to Torah Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $2,347,977.35, approving a 10% reserve for contingency, rejecting all other bids, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract. 2, resolution appropriating $567,732.
Sinanyan to Mr.
We're going to go to Mr. Organessian, our
Okay.
senior civil engineer.
Okay, Mr. Organessian, take it away.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. My name is Carrasco from Public Works Engineering. I'll be presenting the Pennsylvania Avenue Rehabilitation Project. This project was recently advertised and is on the agenda to award tonight. The scope of work for this project is on Pennsylvania Avenue between Mark Ridge Road and Montrose Avenue in northern Glendale. It's going to consist of street resurfacing, removal and repair of damaged sidewalks, curbs, cross gutters, and driveways, construction of new curb ramps to meet ADA guidelines, construction of bulb outs at intersections, realignments at certain intersections, installation of new striping, signing, and pavement markings, some traffic signal modifications at the Caltrans on and off ramps on Pennsylvania Avenue, as well as selective removal and repair of sanitary sewer main. As I indicated earlier, the project location map is above, and it's going to take place on Pennsylvania Avenue between the end of Mark Ridge Road and Montrose Avenue. Pennsylvania Avenue is actually a shared jurisdiction between the County of Los Angeles and the City of Glendale, and it's roughly about a 50-50 split, pretty much down the middle of the roadway. The west side of Pennsylvania is City of Glendale, and the east side is LA County. Our engineer's estimate for the project was roughly $2.5 million. Our lowest responsive bid was $2,347,977.35, and that was from Toro Enterprises. We're asking for a 10% contingency as well as a 10% construction management cost. We had a total of 3 bidders on this project. The cost share between the city and LA County is at a 50-50 split. The funding sources that will cover city portion of the funds are STPL funds, which is short for Surface Transportation Program. It's a federal grant that we received and that we applied for and received. We're also going to be using Measure R funds for the signal modifications at the intersections, gas tax, and some sewer funds for the sewer repair. LA County has entered into a cooperative agreement with the city, and they have provided us with their full share of STPL funding. We completed community outreach for this project in various methods. We did a community meeting with the community. We mailed out about 900 notifications, and we also had a meeting with GUSD staff, mainly for the Valley View Elementary School that is off of Orange Avenue on Pennsylvania. The public notification that's going to take place during construction is our typical director's letter that's sent 3 weeks prior. It's a contractor's letter is sent 1 to 2 weeks before actual construction commences in front of the locations on Pennsylvania, and door hangers are also handed out 3 days before. The project schedule is about 75 working days, and it's scheduled to take place, start in October and end roughly about February of 2019. Hopefully there's no unforeseen conditions that are experienced during the winter months. Valley View Elementary School is one of the schools that's nearby, right off of Orange Avenue, and school will be conducted, construction near this school will be conducted either on the weekends, but mainly after drop-off and before pickup. If you guys have any further questions or comments, I'd be more than happy to.
Councilmember Garcetti?
Did you say 2019?
February 2019, yes.
Okay, so it starts February 2019 and...
No, starts October 2018, ends February 2019.
October 2018 ends February 2019. Okay,
Yes.
got it. All right, thank you.
And you did mention that LA County is paying 50%, so our real impact fiscally is half of the 2.8 million.
Half of the 2.8 million,
Yes,
correct.
so we're in for about 1.6, 1.4 million, and the county will pay the other half.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
All right, any other comments, Mr. Najarian?
Are we going to be incorporating any traffic calming measures in Pennsylvania? I know it's got a slope, and there's been complaints of speeding, and I don't know if this meets the warrants for, you know, let's go through the toolkit, either the striping or the bump outs or the speed humps. Are we thinking of that at this point as we're redoing that street or not?
So we have looked at speed bumps on Pennsylvania Avenue, and it's actually a fire route, and so we're not going to be able to place speed humps, and also the slope and the grade of the street is much higher than what is required on the minimum and the maximum for the speed hump placement. In terms of the bump outs,
Are those guidelines or part of the ordinance?
those are city guidelines that we follow.
Yes,
So,
Madam.
we're going to have a discussion on guidelines. But anyway, I do respect those guidelines. Perhaps the striping, which gives the impression of a narrower roadway and in some instances, slows the speed down without incorporating any of the hardware, the hardscaping for that. As we're thinking about that, I know it's
Councilmember Najarian, that's a very good point. It's not too late to add that to the project, so our traffic engineers will take a look. And you're absolutely right. It does have the visual impression of narrowing the street down, and that's a sloped street, and we have seen cases of speeding, so we'll take a look. If there's space available on the pavement, we can definitely incorporate that into the project.
as well as the updated crosswalk
Yes.
paint scheme, and
Right.
I think would be great. There's one other thing that I'm going to insist on, and I know that the folks in the northern part of Glendale love being associated with the city of Glendale. I think we need to let them know that they are always in our thoughts, and even in our public works projects. I would love to have a sign indicating that the street improvements are being brought to you by the Glendale City Council, along with all of our names. If we can put some graffiti-resistant signage there that would prevent, being marked out. I think it's an issue that in all seriousness, it's an issue that we've discussed in light of the Foothill Boulevard markers. There is clearly a sense that they're not part of the community, and we really should let them know that we do continually invest in their community, and with pleasure. We do it with pleasure and see them as an integral part of the community that we call Glendale.
Consider it done.
I have a question on the traffic signal modifications on the 210 on and off ramps. I thought that was Caltrans that was responsible for that synchronization. Because I've asked about that on the 134 down at Brand and Central and Sanchez.
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, you are absolutely correct. The signals that Caltrans is responsible for is within their jurisdiction is what they call the regulator signals at the end of the ramps.
Oh, down.
Right, so we are responsible for everything before getting on the ramp. So this project includes modifications to the ones before getting on the ramp.
Right, it's not the ones that say three cars per light. It's the one, yeah.
Correct.
I thought those were the ones that I had questioned before, that we needed better synchronization, no?
Those we can manage, and we do manage, but it's the ones at the end of the ramps, the regulators that we can't.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other comments, Mr. Argentini?
Comments? I have a question.
Okay.
From anybody on the city staff. Did we have any major accident, in past few years on Pennsylvania Avenue?
Councilman Agajanian, I don't recall of any information regarding major accidents.
Yeah, because we are talking about Pennsylvania Avenue such that accidents happens on regular basis, so I just don't remember on Pennsylvania we had.
If I remember correctly, Councilmember Agajanian, members of the City Council, there was one significant accident that occurred at Pennsylvania, and I'm trying to remember if it was in the unincorporated area for a portion of it, and a portion of it was in Glendale. I'm looking at Mr. Zern because I think he remembers as well. But it was that one was a significant accident that occurred.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, that was a pedestrian fatality. Of a young high school girl. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the jurisdictional is almost the center line of the street. Right. And in that case, there was no signal there. There was flashing crosswalk that the county had put in, I believe, but whatever the operation of that was. Almost immediately after that accident, the county came to us to put a signal at that location. So there was a signal very shortly thereafter, still remains there today.
Excuse me, do you remember when that accident happened? I mean, it was
It
2
was-
years, 5 years, 10 years?
Oh,
In
it's
the last
probably
5
closer
years.
to 10.
Yeah,
It's more
that's
than
what I'm-
5 and probably closer to 10.
3 to 5.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
but you know, you may be right because my timelines are completely off, but I think it's 3 to 5 years.
it's probably 19 years since I was first appointed as Director of Public Works. It seems like just yesterday, doesn't it?
And you're
But
older.
sometime, it was not a long time after that. So, yeah, 5 to 7 years maybe, approximately. But a very tragic incident.
Yeah. But generally, Pennsylvania been safe street, in my opinion, other than one accident I remember a long time ago around Altura Street.
Altura?
Altura crossing Pennsylvania. Then we brought the traffic lights
Right,
on the corner.
that's where the accident was.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago. So, I mean, I just want to say Pennsylvania been like a safe street, in my opinion, all the time. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion for that?
Move the item.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Garabetian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Sinanyan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dveen.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item would be 8B, Director of Human Resources regarding amendment of contract with CalPERS for local miscellaneous fire and police members represented by the Glendale Management Association, GMA, to apply provisions of Section 20516, employee sharing additional costs to applicable members. 8B1, Resolution of Intention. 8B2, Ordinance for Introduction.
Mr. Doyle, I think you're on.
Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, the item before you is an amendment to the city's contract with CalPERS, which enables employee contributions to be reflected as a credit on the employee's annual PERS statement. This is being done on behalf of the Glendale Management Association. Prior to that, I'd say probably 5 years ago, we did the same thing with the GCEA group. As you know, the city has been on the forefront of efforts to have its employees participate in cost sharing of their pension costs. Our employees not only pay the full employee share of the CalPERS funding, but also a portion of the employer's share. That amount ranges from currently 3.5% to 4%. What this amendment would do is have what the GMA negotiated several years ago in its most recent round of negotiations, which under those rare circumstances when an employee leaves employment prior to retirement and they choose to cash out their employee contributions, this would enable them to also cash out those contributions that were contributed by the employee on behalf of the employer as well. So it's really, again, a very rare circumstance where the employee would have the ability to take out what they had, in fact, already contributed to the PERS contributions. This really has no fiscal impact on the organization. In fact, I think it's probably a good idea from the standpoint of the city because it does bring some degree of permanence to the whole notion of cost sharing. It actually embeds that practice into our contract with PERS. And currently, it's only addressed in our respective MOUs. So with that, if you have any questions, this item is pretty straightforward. CalPERS presented us with a resolution of intention as well as ordinance for introduction. The ordinance will be brought back October 2nd, assuming it gets introduced.
Okay. I think it's important to note that there is no fiscal impact to the city at all on this item.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay. Do I have questions or?
Madam Mayor, I will move the resolution at 8B1 and introduce the ordinance at 8B2.
Roll call, please.
Well, we need a second for the resolution.
Oh,
Sorry.
second? I'm sorry.
We need a second for the resolution.
Second for the resolution.
Mr. Sinanyan.
Oh, I did? Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't hear you,
Yes,
Mayor.
I did second it.
Okay, all right. Then roll call.
Councilmember Agajanian,
Yes.
Garabetian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Sinanyan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dveen.
Yes. And do we have to take the,
Ordinance
it?
has been introduced. It'll come
okay?
back
All right,
October 2nd.
great. Thank you. Thank you very much. And next item?
Next item would be oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report. I do have one card.
Mayor, we have one card. That's because
Sounds
you're
good.
not here.
Yes, sounds good. Let's hear
Okay,
it.
all right. Okay, Glenn Webb?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm here to make some brief comments about SB 100. It's certainly a game changer, passed yesterday and was signed by the governor. I got to get my, okay. SB 100 requires 50% renewables by 2026, 60% renewables by 2030, and 100% zero carbon by 2045. The language changed for the 2045 requirement. That turns out to be quite significant. In our case, our large hydro and nuclear, which are not included in the renewables portfolio, but of course are included in the zero carbon portfolio. But the 100% requirement by 2045, of course, is an aggressive requirement, but there's no reason that we can't meet it. We're not the first state to take the step. We're second behind Hawaii. We look at the GWP plan. What have they said? What have they done? What are they planning to do? Their plans are fairly clear by the material that they presented in writing to the council and to the public. They intend to proceed with repowering the Grayson natural gas power plant with turbines ranging from 262 megawatts down to the low option of 131. Either one of those options can meet the 2045 requirement or even come close to it. Their plan to integrate new renewables with more flexible repowered Grayson is also, as I've mentioned to you several times in the past, cannot be done. GWP has said that air pollution will increase significantly in all 6 categories of air pollution. And yet, they claim health benefits from repowering. Cancer reduction of 96%, 99% reduction in acute health effects, 99% reduction in chronic health effects. All that with an increase in all 6 categories of pollution. This chart doesn't even require any comment. What have they actually done? From 2016 to 2017, they have reduced our renewables portfolio from 47% to 36%. The trend is not good. Both of these charts presented to the City Council by GWP. What do they plan to do? They plan to double natural gas purchases as shown in their budget that's been approved by the City Council from $7 million to $14 million in 1919. At the same time, plant efficiency will double with the installation of the new gas turbines. And therefore, gas generation at Grayson will go up by 4 times from the current 159 megawatt hours to 716,000 megawatt hours. And our renewables portfolio will go down from 64% to 30%. That doesn't make any sense? Let's take a second look at it. Let's look at the charts indicating the operating hours of the new gas turbines at Grayson. The 131 megawatt option, the smallest one. The plan presented shows 3,000 hours of the 60 megawatt simple cycle unit, 71 megawatt unit operating for 8,400 hours. That will generate 776,000 megawatt hours annually. And our green energy goes down to 28%. GWP has told you via the EIR that greenhouse gas emissions from the operation of the project will increase by 415,000 metric tons per year. With the new CO2 rate of the new gas turbines of 0.39 metric tons of CO2 per megawatt hour, that indicates an increased generation at Grayson of 1,070,000 megawatt hours. And our green energy at Grayson will be at 0. We need a new plan. Unfortunately, Mr. De Leon and Mr. Brown in Sacramento gave us SB 350 requiring public operated utilities with load distributions of greater than 700 gigawatt hours. That's us. We're at 1,100 gigawatt hours. To adopt and submit a new plan by January the 1st of 2019. We need to get it done. And I pledge that I will help the council answer questions. I will be pleased to meet with Mr. Zern and his staff to help them get a new plan that we can get in place by January the 1st of 2019 to meet SB 100's requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Webb. Question?
Yes.
Mr. Radajanian?
Mr. Webb, you did a great job reviewing the subject matter, and I appreciate what you have done. And you brought all this good information. But why you wouldn't present this before that I could review and ask you questions?
All of
Why
the
you have to
charts
bring that last second?
that I presented here, you have seen before.
I know that.
3, 4, 5 months ago.
Right.
Every one of them, except for the one that deals with the new energy report that just came out a few days ago. All of those other charts, you will, if you will look at the hard copy, and I've always given you a hard copy, you will look back, all those charts have been there, starting 6 months ago.
I agree with you, but I mean, if you would present this before, I would review and ask you some
I have
questions.
struggled.
You gave me this, I go
understand.
home, and I go to my TV station, I have lots of other
I'm
issues to
talking about
handle.
presentations that I have given to the council here with a hard copy. I have been working on this for about 6 months since I became aware of it, and my thoughts get better refined as time goes on. And I've now finished the zero carbon plan that I discussed with you several months ago, and I will begin presenting that next week. I'm finished with my criticisms now of the old. It's time to move on to the new. So I will help and present my thoughts and as to how we can get there in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
No? Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Zern.
Yes, sir.
Garpetti.
Can you, because this renewable portfolio that we have some control over the percentage of it. It was 47% by 2016. Now it's 10% or 11% less.
37.
Can you, 37%. Can you please explain how did that happen?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council.
He's still there. That's okay.
I hear you.
The current 2017 power mix versus the 2016 power mix. The primary reduction was in the wind generation that we purchased. There was simply less wind available to purchase. The other smaller component of that was eligible hydro, most of which we get from the Pacific Northwest, and they had a different season. I think, if anything, and wind patterns are unpredictable. I mean, the best folks will tell you is that they're unpredictable. So I think it goes to show you, if anything, there's a certain amount of unreliability. What it means, though, is we have to look at how we can better diversify our portfolio, not only from a power supply, the type of power we get, but also geographically diversify so that we don't have our wind or our solar all coming from the same part of the country. So if there is wind patterns that change in the Plain State that don't change in the Pacific Northwest, we can still take advantage of that. If there is bad weather in Nevada for any extended period of time, we can still get solar, for instance, from Arizona or from California. So it's important for us to be as geographically diverse as we are resource diverse, and that's where we're going here. This is a power content label. We're required by law to post this. That's what this is. It's not a requirement to meet a deadline. Those are embedded in the now law of the land, which is SB 100. And so those compliance periods that were in 13 and 16, the next one's 2020, the next one is 2024, then 27, then 30. And so in our particular portfolio, we're compliant at least through 2020. which means nothing more than we have a bit of a cushion so that we don't have to be forced into buying a particular type of commodity or in a particular area. I think it was Mr. Agajanian that had said at one time, as prices are coming down, we should wait as long as we can or wait for the best deal. And I would agree with them, which is why I think as solar has really dropped over the last, certainly 5 years, but 2 years even. We're now seeing opportunities for us to buy larger pieces of larger solar projects as the price comes down. So as a long-winded answer as I'm famous for, Mr. Garpetian. But you know, the bottom line here is these were renewable resources that didn't perform to the standard of the year before.
And my last question is, we do have some contracts for our renewable portfolio that we're obligated to for another 25 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Most of, Mr. Garpetian, most of our renewable energy is secured by long-term contracts. In fact, the legislature would prefer us to enter into 10-plus year agreements to have some sort of stability in our portfolio.
And so it's not that like we kind of canceled this contract and that's why we have 10% less renewable energy today.
It just has to do with there was less available. You could argue more that we had too much wind, and maybe that's the case. I thought we had too much wind when I came to GWP. That's why I didn't exercise 3 options for more wind, especially if it comes from the general same geographic region. That would be a fair argument. Maybe you guys have too much wind and you should diversify. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. But in this particular case, it wasn't an intention. I think 2 speakers have said you lowered your renewable. We didn't lower it. We didn't intend to lower it. It was just Mother Nature in some ways reacted. And we had to now look at ways to cover ourselves contingency-wise for even that. You've heard of our contingencies at the plant for the repower. Now we have to look at contingencies, which I think are covered in our diversity, or diversification that I mentioned.
And what's our financial obligations to these long-term contracts that we have? All combined, all together?
Oh, I don't know, Mr. Garpetian. I can get you that number. So the cumulative figure of all of our renewable contracts for the duration, I can get that to you.
Yeah,
I don't want to hazard a guess. It's sizable, I can tell you that. It's sizable.
Let's have that so the public would know what that number is as well.
Absolutely.
And I agree with Mr. Agajanian. This is a very comprehensive PowerPoint presentation, and it's very difficult to read through the whole thing and digest it all in a minute or two to ask educated questions. So if possible, maybe you can email it to the staff and they can forward it to us, your PowerPoint presentation. And, sorry?
City Clerk already has it.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
And just a final note, this is exactly the kind of subject that we'll talk in more detail at the end of October, early November, when we take Grayson up again with the whole clean energy RFP addition to that discussion.
So any other comments, questions?
Just on that. So just so I understand, Mr. Zern, the governor said we can go nuclear by 2045?
The governor, actually, Senator De Leon,
it's
as part of the negotiations to get his bill passed, one of the biggest issues with the publicly owned utilities was to be able to get some level of consideration for the large hydro and nuclear projects they were already in. Primarily, that's Hoover and Palo Verde in Arizona, of which we're a member of both. So in the senator's additional letter with the legislation, he specifically called out Palo Verde and Hoover in those. But the law also says if you have eligible hydro up to a certain point, that will cover your portfolio as well. But really, it was directed at Hoover and Palo Verde for a couple of reasons. One is the size of those, and they were originally not grandfathered in. 2 is both are out of state. So there is a lot more consideration. There was a lot more consideration for in-state hydro. So we will get, as part of that 40% clean energy component, we'll be able to roll Hoover and Palo Verde in, which, as I had mentioned to you before, and you can see from the power content label, is 20% this year, but that range can be as much as 25%, so that's a sizable number.
So if that occurs, then our portfolio numbers will go up?
Are reportable, right, because right now, or prior to SB 100, the only thing that you could count were those those 6 categories, excuse me, 5 categories at the top.
Right.
Now we can go down and add the large hydro and the nuclear, at least on our power content label, because those are the 2 eligible facilities.
And
Because
then-
we're at 60% if we do currently, right? Isn't that the number I heard when we count in large
So
hydro? and-
the exact number today is 57%.
A little bit.
All right.
So as if you add it up, and I'm just adding off the power content label, is about 60%. So that's our total. And as I said, we're compliant on just straight RPS at least through 2020.
And if I understand what you were saying about the wind and how that was part of the reason that the percentage went down 10%, so that if there's more wind available, renewables available, then that 37% will go up.
It would go up. Plus,
So
not
we
to
have more.
mention, we already have futures contracts that are going to come online as the other points come to fruition where we have to be compliant, compliance points come to fruition. So we will push those in. Like I said, there is no compliance period currently, so we have some flexibility. But it's good. It's actually good that it happened in this year because now we can address it. We see that we might have been a little heavy there. We can look at something else in some of those futures contracts that we're considering. And my staff is also looking at 2 large solar projects. The entire project is large. Our share will be somewhat smaller. But keep in mind, as I had noted to you, you still are transmission constrained. So the idea has always been to free up as much of that 200 megawatts of transmission as we can to bring in what my hope would be 100% renewables, and then add in the battery storage, which can also augment that.
Thank you. Any comments, Mayor? Questions?
No, but very interesting conversation. I look forward to seeing the details.
Okay. Mr. Agajani?
I'm glad that we're discussing this issue. When I came in, I was told 250 megawatt of gas, and apparently we are on right direction now. And I want to appreciate what you are doing, Mr. Zern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, the next item.
Be any new business?
2 items.
2 items. Councilmember Najarian.
Madam
Please.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to authorize the city attorney to enter into and execute a stipulation with the Environmental Protection Agency, California Department of Toxic Substances Control, and the settling work defendants, Glendale Respondents, GRG, in the matter of United States versus ITT Industries Incorporated, et al., case number CV 99-00552MRP, for the purposes of maintaining the status quo operation of the Glendale operable units related to the San Fernando Basin volatile organics compounds cleanup pending the issuance of new remedial measures until and including November 30th, 2024.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Sinanyan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dveen?
Yes. And Councilmember Agajanian, you have one as well?
I'd like to move that city attorney be and hereby is authorized to enter into and execute a waiver of conflict of interest with Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, and Schrick, LLP, for their joint representation of the cities of Glendale and Burbank before the State Water Resources Control Board with respect to the State Water Resources Control Board's consideration and adoption of an in-stream flow policy for the Los Angeles River and Glendale's and Burbank's respective interests relating to the required wastewater discharges into the Los Angeles River.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Agajanian?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Sinanyan?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dveen?
Yes. Next.
Next would be adjournment.
And I would ask that we adjourn in memory of Franco Navavian and in honor of the first responders, to 9/11 and in memory of those who lost their lives.
Second.
So moved.
We are adjourned at 7:22. Thank you. Good night.